morning, good afternoon. Dr. Barry Lund of News and my good friend, the dog, Woof. Today, I'm just going to show you a clip from Sky News, actually, Outsiders. Fantastic information in relation to the ID. And it starts off with a little bit of fun, but it's something that's got to be taken very serious. The ID is definitely coming in. So I won't talk too much about it. I'll go straight to the video in a second. The next video, I'm going to talk about a lot about common law, and I've done with Bill Turner is a good friend of mine, and Bill and I have been, we believe, teaching AI because it tests you out first when you put questions to it, and it gives you answers that if you don't know the law, you accept it and you carry on with the BS, and it doesn't really work. But we've got a few good documents up, and I'm going to put a lot of them up on the channel, and I hope to get a cartoon to read them out, some of them. And people will be able to get you will be able to get access to these documents somewhere, or we're going to work it out. So when you got invitation to do business in court and all that kind of stuff, and off the sheriff and stuff, I'm going to put one of the history of the sheriff here in Victoria, believe it or not, and it goes back to 18 odd. So it's interesting. Have a look at this ID thing. It's very important, and the only way back is through common law and your rights as a man and woman, because corporations have no authority over men and women. They have no authority whatsoever, and we've got not only got the proof, and we've got the legal and the Commonwealth aspect of proof. So that will be produced in the next video. It's not easy, but we'll get it done. Have a look at Outsiders, and for God's sake, do not let the digital ID get into this place, because the Labour Party and the opposition at the moment are nothing more than morons, and they're going to destroy us. They're all kissing the tails of China now. I love China. I've been there, a fantastic place, a great country, but we don't want to be controlled the same way as China is, where you can't get a job without an ID, and they'll tell you how to eat and where you can spend your money. Anyway, I'll shut up. Watch Outsiders, guys. The next video we'll put up is going to be pretty interesting. I'm thinking about doing a Zoom meeting during the week. We'll try and work it out so we can bring people in from overseas as well. And it'll be a forum where people can get 5 minutes says. We'll have an adjudicator, me or somebody else. I don't care who it is. Everybody get a shot at putting forward their ideas. But stop going down rabbit holes. There are so many people making money out of idiotic ventures that end up in nowhere and cause nothing but harm, loss, and injury to themselves and to the propaganda they're putting forward. Bye for now. Take care. Try and be good.
Good morning and welcome to Outsiders, the show that is to combating totalitarian overreach and excessive government authoritarian control, what a digital ID is to your personal freedom.
Big halt! This is a BRIC card checkpoint. Present identification for labour allocation.
I've got my card.
BRIC card valid.
Let's see.
Next.
Please,
relocation.
Yes, that's a spoof from the Doctor Who sci-fi series, which I've never watched, but Rowan's a fan of it.
You will recognise Palestine. Recognise it immediately, or you will be exterminated.
All right, I recognise Palestine, I swear. Just don't hurt anyone.
Affirmation received. Produce your BRIT card.
My what?
You are consuming without authorization. Show the BRIT card or face sanction.
I don't know what that is.
Product vaporization.
I've never watched Doctor Who either, but this does actually sound like what is happening in Britain, where the Labour government is promising to bring in a digital ID system called the Brit Card. So really, how much longer is what we're seeing there spoof, parody, or even fiction?
Human, you have shared an opinion on social media. Present your BRIT card.
My what? I don't have one.
Unacceptable. You will be vaporized.
Rita and James missed so much in their younger years, so much that the rest of us enjoyed. Meanwhile, as we wait for Doctor Who, aka Nigel Farage, to save the British galaxy from digital tyranny and extermination with an ID, let's grab the latest Outsiders news. So, more news about Andrew Hastie, Susan Ley, the Liberals. More. Someone's walked away from this and done that and said this and what. Come on, Rita, what's been going on?
Well, we've got some principles being shown in federal politics.
Oh.
It's quaint. But Andrew Hastie has stepped down from his role. He doesn't feel like the portfolio is what it should be, because the immigration debate is one where the Liberals should be seizing upon it, because it goes to so much of their platform. Everything from cost of living to the issues of the so-called culture wars is centred around that. And for them not to seize this opportunity and to have a clear differentiation, a clear policy that they can stand behind. I can understand why Andrew Hastie has stepped down. Obviously, the conjecture is that he's preparing for a challenge. He has said he is not, but there would be an increasing number of coalition MPs and voters who would be hoping for just that, James, because right now the Libs are directionless, they're hapless, they're recording the worst primary poll numbers in their history, in the history of Newspoll since they've been measuring it. So they've never been so low. It's not because Anthony Albanese and his government are enormously
So
popular. It's because they are absolutely without policy differentiation, whether it's net zero, whether it's immigration policy, whether it's issues to do with values. This is a real opportunity for them. But if they are going to take it, they need to do it quickly. They can't wait till 6 months before the election to have a change of leader.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it won't be this week because the entire Senate party room won't be there because it's only estimates this week. But there will be something happening soon, I think, before the end of the year. And the reason why we're seeing this problem here, it's a couple of things here. Number one, nature abhors a vacuum, right? So you've got the Ley, leader of the opposition office. Now, they have gone and said, we're going to have not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 5 committees to figure out what our policies are. So, yeah, so in that, you know, amidst all that, there's no actual policy. We don't know what the coalition stands for. We don't know what the opposition stands for. So, you know, this is why we have had people coming out and saying, well, on energy, on net zero, we've had a couple of more backbenchers defect on net zero overnight. On migration, which I believe immigration is the everything issue. It is about culture. It's about infrastructure. It's about an economy that is being artificially propped up by huge migrant numbers. It's about what's happening at your kids' or grandkids' universities or your university, you know, when you've got major sandstone universities with half of their student body just simply there to get a migration outcome. You know, so you've got
housing, but then Susan says,
well,
immigration has nothing to do with
let's have a listen. We've got that crowd. Let's
have a listen to this.
Susan Ley.
You see for yourself how the lack of infrastructure is contributing to the struggles that people are facing every day. This has nothing to do with any migrant or migrant community, but this is a reprehensible failure of government to put the infrastructure and services in place that Australians deserve.
You see, that's a complete non-argument. That's just nothing. You've got this massive of immigration, and it's obfuscation, it's ducking around. You can't win government by hiding from issues, by running away, being afraid to address issues. The other big issue, I'm afraid, to me, of equal importance is the net zero issue. Both immigration and net zero, the two combined. One is your style of life, but net zero goes directly to the cost of life. These two issues combined should be what the entire coalition focuses on, relentlessly prosecuting the case every day. We'll be chatting to Sarah Henderson shortly in the show. But we've got things like the ISIS brides. We need to be discussing that. There's so many things the Labor Party could be attacked on. Their refusal to tackle the pro-Palestinian marches. So many issues that this coalition needs to be fighting for everyday Australians on, James.
Rowan, that was, you know, worse than an obfuscation. That was an absolute cop-out, right?
Yes.
That is the leader of the opposition saying, we are going to lay down on this issue of mass migration into this country, you know, that the Albanese government is on track to have 2 million more people coming into this country by the end of its second term. That is a huge huge number any way you slice it. And for Susan Ley, who represents the party that is supposedly the party of economic rationalism, and I will give her credit, she gave a very good speech last week to CETA talking about how we've got to get off welfare and all of that and stop the government spending, and yet then to go and say something so economically illiterate as to say the excess demand from increasing your population on infrastructure, schools, housing, roads, everything else isn't doing anything to affect your quality of life is an absolute nonsense. And it shows that they're terrified. It shows that they're absolutely terrified, just as I'm afraid the Peter Dutton campaign was terrified of being monstered on this issue by the ABC and the left media and all those people within the party who say, oh, no, the Liberals need to be modern Liberals to reflect modern Australia. And yet, as you very perspicaciously said, Rowan, a moment ago, the fact that Liberal primary vote has gone nowhere, in fact, it has gone backwards as they pursue this course, is proof that they're on the wrong track, and they need to stop listening to left-wing pollsters on Twitter, you know who I'm talking about, who keep telling them, oh, there's no ground for them if they talk about immigration, there's no ground if they talk about net zero. That is nonsense.
That's the same left-wing pollster, Labor pollster, Labor operative who told us that the Voice was undefeated.
Correct.
That it was absolutely... And then what? The coalition actually finally, after 10 months, developed a backbone and stood against the referendum, and we all know the result. So that was 2 years ago. So this notion that modern Australia is inherently left-wing and you can't talk about immigration, you can't talk about net zero, it is an absolute lie, a verifiable lie. And that argument Susan Ley just gave, it wasn't just economically illiterate. It was economically illiterate, but it was also precisely the argument the left wing makes when you talk about mass migration and just how suitable it is, how beneficial it is for the existing population. The argument back is always, well, that's just a failure of planning because you haven't built enough roads and hospitals and schools, as if there's endless money to do that, as if that's not going to be a cost to the community. And we are one of the highest tax countries in the world. I mean, how much more tax can the population be to build this endless infrastructure? So it is just a no-brainer for any centre-right alternative to make a stand on this issue. It's not about cutting immigration entirely. It's about having a sensible, sustainable
It's not as if there aren't
policy.
examples from Britain and the United States of how electorally popular it is to attack.
We're different.
Come on,
listen
it'd have to be brain dead. But let's have a listen to Andrew Hastie.
We're different.
Let's have a listen to Andrew Hastie.
Well, I just think net overseas migration is out of control under Labor, and regular mainstream Australians are feeling the pressure of Labor's uncontrolled immigration. 1.2 million people over the last 3 years, and Labor's only overseen the building of about 500,000 dwellings.
Now, James, if I may return the perspicacious compliment, which I did enjoy, that was Andrew Hastie picking up on your perspicacious comments last week, saying although we have technically or theoretically controlled immigration, it's out of control.
Well, it is.
And that is the point. So well done, James.
Thank you, but let me give you a couple of points on that. Let's talk about that. And let's continue to be perspicacious here on Outsiders this morning, because it's a very perspicacious morning. We've changed the clocks and everything. But that said, look, you've got 1 million people here on student visas, right? Only half of them are going to anything you'd recognize as a university, much of those going to things that are like trade schools and things like that. Within our universities, we had figures revealed this week that universities like the University of Sydney have 51% of their student body is from overseas. And there have been many reported complaints about and concerns about English literacy, English comprehension. You've all heard stories about people having to carry, foreign students in their group projects and things like this. This happens all the time, and these universities enjoy tax-free status to basically become migration agencies, because what they're doing is they're bringing people through who get a migration outcome, i.e. they get to stay in Australia. Well, we've got 12% of our migration is actually skilled, and everybody says, oh, we need skilled migrants. great. But you can cut that by 88% and still get the skilled migrants, and you have much less pressure on the housing, on the roads, and all of that. And you see a city like Sydney now, you know, we're in the midst of a housing crisis in this city. We keep hearing about how people can't find a place to rent, find a place to buy. Young people never get on the ladder. And so much of this is because, well, they are being told they have to, you know, move further away into smaller and smaller places to absorb this growing cohort of people from overseas. Now, God love them if they want to come here and make a better life in Australia. That is fantastic, and it's great that we're an attractive country, but we need to be smarter and more selective about how we do this.
Now, I just want to quickly make the point you touched on earlier about those MPs who have now said no to net zero. So both Ben Small and Henry Pike, two very good, one from WA, one from Queensland, both terrific Conservative coalition MPs there, along with Andrew Hastie, Jacinta Price, Tony Pazin, Alex Antic and Garth Hamilton. You've got a very, very strong group there who are saying no to net zero. Susan Ley would be utterly insane not to be listening to them and recognising that the intellectual powerhouse as well as the popular powerhouse is on the anti-net zero side of things, and well done to those MPs. I reckon there's many more just eager to jump across and say no to net zero, given the opportunity. We'll touch on later in Emissions Impossible this ridiculous Senate inquiry or Senate hearings about misinformation and disinformation around climate deniers. Ooh, I wonder who they have in mind. But this stuff is as Orwellian as what is happening in Britain with the digital ID. We've got the e-safety commissioner coming out with all sorts of nonsense, trying to ban tweets from overseas in Europe, talking about America. You know, this stuff is getting out of control in this country too. And where's the coalition on that issue? They're in favour of it when they should be absolutely opposed to the restrictions on our free speech. Hello, you're watching Outsiders with Rita, Big Brother, Panahi, James, 2 + 2 = 5, Morrow, and myself, Rowan, Ministry of Truth, Dean. 2 weeks ago, Sir Keir Starmer, the Labour Prime Minister of Great Britain, who is a self-confessed great mate of our own Labour Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, declared war on the freedom of his own people with this announcement.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament.
A mandatory digital ID without which you cannot work in the United Kingdom is the great dream of authoritarian governments and entities like the World Economic Forum. In reality, once such a digital identification system is in place, a government can not only prevent you working, but can also prevent you earning money, or spending money, or travelling locally or internationally, or even feeding yourself. An authoritarian government armed with your digital ID can monitor and control or limit your intake of meat, of alcohol, can restrict the amount you travel, how much or how far you drive your car, what sort of car you drive, can control how much electricity you use, can control what shops you can and cannot go into, what healthcare you can or must have, and can prevent you from partaking in any aspect of normal, everyday social life. I'm not saying they will do that, but I am saying they can do that if they so choose, once they have digital IDs in place. And unfortunately, as we saw during COVID, if governments have the power and the technology, they will not hesitate to use that power and technology whenever and however it suits their political agenda, regardless of who gets hurt. Nigel Farage, who will hopefully be the next Prime Minister of Great Britain, has already slammed this plan.
The benefits are clear. The state can control every single aspect of your life. They can know where you are at any given moment in time. They can see what money goes in and out of your accounts. They can decide, oh, no. You can't go to Marbella. You've used up your carbon credit for the year. Now, you might say I'm exaggerating, but these are the endless possibilities that could happen with digital ID. I am personally, vehemently opposed to this in every single way.
Quite right. Elsewhere across Europe, concerned Conservative politicians are speaking up.
The future totalitarian regimes, they no longer require electrified, barbed wired fences. All they need is a phone and some QR code, a digital ID, and then they can do with you whatever they want, and that is scary.
And she is correct. In China now, control by the state is absolute, greater than ever before, due entirely not to Mao's barrel of a gun, but to Xi's digital identification of every citizen. Have a look at their social credit system.
Good score brings benefits, but people with low scores lose rights. The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens.
It's a matter of principle. Those people have to be condemned.
Those people aren't honest, so they have to pay the price. The Supreme Court has created a blacklist for so-called bad citizens, those whose ratings have dropped to 0. On it are companies, but also 23 million people to date. Among them is this journalist Liu Hu. He got a little too close to uncovering corruption among high-profile party members. After being sued for defamation by the subject of a story he'd written, he was blacklisted. He only realised when he tried to buy a train ticket and was told he was banned from travelling.
Is that the sort of country we want to live in? No wonder people who actually respect and love freedom are saying no to this horror show, including the man who freed our own social media from woke tyranny and cancel culture when he bought and saved Twitter, now X, Elon Musk. Elon Musk has raised concerns about our own Australian under-16 social media ban for the simple reason that such a scheme, regardless of any perceived merits, regardless of what you think of the idea, the scheme can only be successfully implemented, presumably, if all of us sign up to some form of a digital ID, voluntarily or otherwise. And that's a problem. Already in Britain, more and more people are raising the alarm about Starmer's mandatory digital ID.
Anybody that submits to this, anybody that accepts a digital ID is slapping handcuffs around their own wrists.
The government wants to introduce digital ID. They're desperate because their little puppet masters, the controllers, need the government to push through digital ID so they can then push through digital currency. And digital currency is the end of freedom, honestly, once and for all.
This is the time to stand up. This is the hill that we must all die on. This is our freedom that we have to fight for our children and our grandchildren and all of those that come behind us. Stand up, everybody. No digital ID. Not on my watch.
Hi, I'm Rita, I'm 18 years old, and I'm against digital ID because it takes away our freedom of speech.
Hi, my name is Lena, I'm 19 years old. I'm against digital ID. It's oppressive and it's not fair for the future generation.
Hi, I'm Nazarene, I'm 24 years old, and I'm against digital ID because I'm not a government slave and I never want to be.
Elsewhere, opposition is popping up in the most extraordinary places. On the side of vans, there's a van that's got signs painted on. There's even an entire pub that has renamed itself the George Orwell and projects sayings from 1984, the novel, up on the wall. And on the beach at Scarborough, near where the Labour Party annual conference was held, protesters even created a sand artwork of Keir Starmer as Big Brother in 1984. To add to the absolute irony and absurdity, the police are now investigating who did it. You get the picture. A police state beckons. This man, a former policeman himself, doesn't mince his words.
We will not comply. We will not consent. You can stick your digital ID where the sun don't shine.
Where the sun don't shine, that was the British Isles for 9 months of the year when I lived there. But anyway, I digress. Nearly 3 million Poms have already signed a petition against digital IDs, which the Starmer government is arrogantly ignoring. But others, such as the CEO of digital platform Palantir, he's refusing to use the digital ID, saying that this government, this Keir Starmer government, has no mandate to introduce it. And many others are optimistically predicting this monstrosity will be dead within a few months. We can only hope they are right. But No such luck here in Australia, where the public, we may well be sleepwalking into a digital ID nightmare. Already, the e-Safety Commissioner is making noises about how we must just put up with whatever discomfort she has in store for us. My advice, be very, very afraid of what this Labor government could do.
Believe that over time, facial age estimation, liveness tests, and other forms of age assurance will become normalized as well. Different people at different ages will have different levels of comfort with things like taking selfies or using biometrics or even digital ID. It really varies.
Unbelievable. But back to Britain, where the government is for the moment still pressing ahead with this digital ID nightmare despite the massive backlash.
All UK citizens will have to have one. Well, the plan is that we're going to roll this out by the end of
No, my question is, what if I don't? What if I've got my job, so I don't need to show this to anyone, so what if I just don't do it?
So if you don't have one, then you'll have a problem if you want to get a new job.
No.
You'll have a problem.
Right, this is a document that goes back, as you can see, to 1852. The first sheriffs came from England and common law way back in 1830s, right? So have a quick look at this. I will put more of these documents up and you can get access to them, but just quick freeze the video and watch it.